So what kind of planet has the older generation given us? I think that they've handed over an invaluable yet badly managed heirloom. We are not born to this earth, this planet by choice. It's given to us as a gift, and I believe that in its inception it was created beautifully.
From my point of view, they have given us a world that is very consumer driven, consumer oriented, and money speaks a lot, and I would like to see a shift from that towards a more open society where money isn't the cornerstone of what everyone, how everyone goes about their business.
I personally believe we inherited a mix of both the good and the bad from our previous generation. Example, for the bad is a culture of credit, where you basically can borrow more than what you earn. Second would be a sort of ignorance to global warming, where one day I believe our future generation has to answer to the wrongs of our previous and probably even to the current generation.
Our older generations have given us a place to worry about, I feel, because right now we need to rescue it. It's not sustainable enough. Our economic system and consumption is at a height. Animal cruelty is increasing.
I think while the older generation have tried to make a world of progress, they've neglected to think about the negative impacts of rapid urbanization and development on the environment and on social justice.
I think older generation did not do it very well with the new generation. I mean, not that they completely wiped us, but they could have put more sense to the passion, more capacity to people who have passion and talent, who would go far than what they're doing right now. Because if they did this like years before, we could have done so much better things and we would be so much ahead of everything.
I think the world that we live in is very self-oriented, and one of the things that the older generation has done well is to allow people to be more self-actualized and self-interested, but it's also one of the negative things because we've moved away from caring about our immediate community to just caring about our immediate self and our families, and I think that's one major issue.
We as human beings have a tendency to take advantage of what is given to us freely, and we forget its value, and I think that's where we've made a mistake.
I don't think we can say good or bad about what we've been left with. I think every generation's sort of been left with the same kind of world, and it's a real work in progress that everybody has to focus on fixing.
When it comes to the good, one of the strongest aspects, I believe, in culture is the fact that I think the previous generation birthed the idea of equality. And that is something that we all have to understand and should be the norm of the current generation and the future generation.
My older generations have given me a planet which is truly one of a kind and which I feel has so much potential and so much opportunity. And as human beings, we're constantly on a mission, we're never idling. But it's important to kind of stop at some point and look back at what our older generations have done right to create this place which we thrive on today.
I expect the older generation to embrace new ideas and think about new ways of thinking. I know they've been used to older concepts, but maybe try to incorporate what the younger generations can give to them and incorporate technology and embrace a new way of thinking.
My expectations from the older generation would be to be less complacent and to not take advantage of their circumstances, to be less selfish about how they live, and I think that's a lesson that each and every one of us as human beings need to take, and to be more alert and sensitive to what is going on.
I think the older generation needs to look at its own generation and how they've spent their entire lives thinking about mostly themselves and those around them, and how much of the rest of the world is still suffering and may even feel extremely oppressed by the success of them.
I personally believe that the older generation needs to take the back seat now, in a sense that we, the current generation, are in our prime. I mean, if you look at the actual aspect of Generation Y, we're all in our mid-20s and early 30s, which is the point where we're going to make a difference to the world. And right now, what is probably important is the fact that they can provide us a sort of guidance, you know, be a compass telling us what is right, what is wrong.
Whilst I do think that there's a responsibility on the older generation to rectify the issues and problems that they've made, I think that there's also a responsibility on our generation to ensure a sustainable future for the next generation.
So what's the ideal planet like? Honestly, I love this planet the way it is. I think that it's created beautifully and there's a lot to admire about it and appreciate about it in its natural sense. But if there was anything that I feel would make it ideal, it would be the absence of money and the need for money. And I think that if money didn't exist, how we look at life and how we live it and how we treat this planet would be completely different.
The ideal planet that I would live on or strive to have a more likely a society where people actually forgive one another.
My ideal planet would have community-based initiatives and green, environmentally friendly, conscious living, where sustainability becomes a key pillar of how people live their lives.
As cliche as this might sound, I think that if love were in the core of this earth and it was the heart of this earth, we as human beings would be living in a completely different space, and I don't think that right now we are capable of even understanding what that's like.
The ideal planet summed up: peace, safe, and at one with nature.
I know that no one is perfect and nothing is perfect in this world. But I truly believe in starting with the man in the mirror.
I look forward to a world in which people are conscious of themselves and where they want to be, but they don't feel oppressed by those who are succeeding. A world where you don't feel like lower class, middle class or upper class.
In an ideal world, there would be systems and legislations in place to protect the most vulnerable and marginalised groups, like women, the poor, the disabled and ethnic minorities. I would say in an ideal world, there would be equal opportunities and rights for these groups.
A world where the upper class can be successful without having to trod on and step on the lower class, so that building communities up is an active social enterprise that could even be profitable in ways that we haven't imagined profit.